Welcome to the first annual Qualico Mixed Doubles Classic, brought to you from the Bow Valley in beautiful Alberta, Canada. Our host venues are the Banff Curling Club in the iconic Banff National Park and the Canmore Golf and Curling Club in the gateway to the Canadian Rockies. The event is proudly sponsored by Qualico. We create what we believe in. The Malcolm. Experience Canmore's crown jewel. Vision Electronics. Your best price, and Bow Valley Credit Union, growing together. The Qualico Mixed Doubles Classic, up next. Good morning everyone out there, and welcome to live streaming from Banff of the Qualico Mixed Doubles Classic. We are here on Saturday, moving day for most teams as they try to make the top two spots in their pool. Today's feature matchup, we have Nadine Scotland playing alongside Charlie Thomas. They are from right here in Alberta, and they're up against fellow Albertans Cheryl Bernard and Terry Meek. No strangers to the game and no strangers to most curlers. Usually Cheryl is sitting where I am giving commentary, but today she's back doing what she loves to do, and that is curling, and with none other than her husband Terry Meek. If you take a peek here at this shot, this is what it looks like this morning at sunrise here in Banff. This is from the Banff Gondola, which is located on Sulphur Mountain, just outside our windows here. So beautiful view. It's a beautiful sunny morning. We've got great weather, and we have great curling coming to you in just a few moments. So welcome everybody, thank you for joining us this morning. Just a reminder, if you have any comments, thoughts, questions, please feel free to send those through. Our production manager, Saxby Young, who's been with us all weekend. I get to take a break as I did yesterday and had John Shirelli come on. He unfortunately cannot. He's been sitting at the desk with about 18 sticky notes all over his keypad, pushing buttons, guiding us through this process, and bringing you this lovely feed. So Saxby, a big shout out, thank you very much. And of course, as we said yesterday, Paul Studeman can't be with us today, but was a big part of helping us set this all up. Should also give a shout out to Rocky Mountain Telecom and Kim Heisert, who helped us do much of the cabling and making sure the overhead cameras would work for us. We are here in our feature game. We have Nadine Scotland and Charlie Thomas playing against Cheryl Bernard and Terry Meek in our feature game here at 9 o'clock in lovely Banff, Alberta. We are now in the first end. We have 2 rocks each to go. Bernard and Meek have the hammer. Unfortunately, sorry, it's not listed that way. There we go. And Saxby is, of course, a bit tired here, as we said. We got Charlie Thomas delivering his stone. You can see the situation in the house. Bernard and Meek have 3 with last rock, but of course the skill of Charlie running a bunch of them back in, but unfortunately all jamming and still staying in their place. So we have Bernard and Meek sitting in a good position. They have 2 stones to come, and they do have 3 shot stones in the house early on. We should say in this pool, Bernard and Meek have surprised us and come out with 2 wins. So they're right now sitting at 2-1, and they are tied for 3rd place. Leading the pool, we have Kerry Hodgson and Scotland Thomas. Of course, we're watching Scotland Thomas today. They are undefeated with 3 wins. So big game here. Chance for Bernard and Meek to knock off the pool leaders in Scotland Thomas, bring them back to them, and create a really interesting afternoon. Of course, that's not what Thomas and Scotland wants. So early ends here, as we've said, you can score lots of points, 3s and 4s. We've seen it. We've even seen 2 5s here in Banff over the time. And of course, in the last end the other day, Rock and Steinke had a chance for 5 to beat Bernard and Meek. They missed the double, ended up only getting 3. And of course, Bernard and Meek, that was one of their wins. Okay, we have Terry just trying to draw around unsuccessfully, but still rubs off and provides some protection there. So even though they didn't sink it in to be shot rock, they did provide some protection down this right side, and looks like they haven't left a lot for Scotland and Thomas here. Looks like they're lining up potentially hit, or they could draw through the port or run back that center one. The only good thing facing Scotland and Thomas in this, I guess you could say, is even though yellow's got one in the button, the other 2 are in the 12 foot. So if they can bury one around. If Nadine can bury one around somewhere, even if it's just in the 8-foot, they could possibly cut them down to 1 or 2 if they make a great shot, Bernard and Meek in their last one. So certainly not as dire as it can seem, but not the way that they wanted to start out in this game. Well, it looks like Nadine, they've chosen to throw a draw shot in here. Charlie's on it really quick. He's holding it there. He's holding it there. We're going to see if he can get it through this port. It's coming in nice. It looks to be curling enough. The weight looks to be good. It is really tight. It's going to rub on that front one. Is it going to push it at least into play? No. No, it looks like that rock kind of got caught in between shots. I think the weight was down. They tried to sweep it. Then they let it go to try and bump it, but it was not a good combination of weight and line, and as a result, that's going to leave Meek and Bernard a chance to either draw in for 4 or possibly split in. We're going to take a look and see what they're lining up here. Trying to figure out the best way, and as we've seen all week, there has been 6 feet of curl. So normally if you're at your club in league play, you might just take edge of 12 and throw it down into the middle of the 8-foot, but you're not going to do that here on our ice this week. No, we're getting 6 feet of curl. So I think what they're contemplating is, rather than trying to go way wide out somewhere where a lot of the rocks don't go and guess the weight, they're trying to come down a more familiar path and bump one of the yellow stones out in front and just push it back into play. Obviously, if you look at the left side of the ice, you're facing the same problem. Not only are you trying to get around guards by going way out to the wings, you're also in a spot that you're not sure of the weight. It's first end as well. So I think this is quite a smart call by the veterans, just trying to come down and get their rock back rather than trying to make some sort of wide draw. That would be a little harder to do. And if they hit it right, honestly, if they clip that right, there is a chance that the shot rock could roll and spin in and maybe get in there for 5. But here we go. Cheryl Bernard, a great veteran of the game, a great thrower of the rock, has now released it. Terry's on it sweeping. Looks like he's trying to hold that. He's trying to hold it there to catch that piece. He's trying to keep it from over curling. He's doing a great job of that. Not sure if he's going to. Now he's on the blue one. They just have to hope they don't advance the blue one in and cut down, and they don't. So it looks like that top yellow might have even squeaked in for shot. Could have been a 4. We're going to wait to see when they post it up. But it did look like there was a tap by Nadine Scotland on that top yellow to indicate a 4. So we'll see what they put up on the board. Terry's going to it very quickly, something we love when we're out here in the lounge. The sooner they tell us, the better we can tell you. And there it is. So Bernard and Meek making a statement early against the undefeated team of Nadine Scott and Charlie Thomas. So as we talked about mixed doubles, the end begins by putting a rock out in front and another one in the back 4. The team with Hammer puts their rock into the back 4, and the team without puts theirs up as a guard. That guard for us this week is position number 2. Position 2 in mixed curling is when you put it on top of the first coin that's out there in a measurement of 4.5 feet. The good thing about the rock that's at the back of the 4 is that the team that doesn't have last rock can throw a beautiful draw around their center guard, and on top of that, starting off a very aggressive end and a lot of offense, which is something that's great for curling fans and great to watch. So here we go with Cheryl Bernard getting us underway in the second end, taking a great 4-0 lead. Nice clean delivery. We get a beautiful angle when they throw it down this side of the sheet. Terry Meek's on it. He's guiding this down, not pushing too hard, but when they're on and off again, as we say, that's great, great news for the team. This one's curling in beautifully. It's well by the guard. They're bringing it back on. They're trying to carry it as far as they can because Cheryl's got a beauty Look at her. She's just guiding Terry, and Terry's guiding the rock, and together they get it in there. It did overcurl just a little bit, but still top four. And any rock on top of that tee line is a good rock. Once it gets behind the tee line, it's more usable for your opponents as backing. So a great position there. Great draw weight early on by Cheryl Bernard. And of course, she made a wonderful double tap on those stones at the top of the house at the end of last end to score that four. So certainly curling really well. Here comes Nadine Scotland. As we see, she will try to answer that by throwing a rock right down on top. She's come out a little bit wider on hers. Of course, with the overcurl of Cheryl, that's probably needed. Charlie not putting a broom to this. Looks like he feels the weights well. He's actually encouraging it to slow down. It does need to, so it'll curl over. There he goes. He's doing a little directional sweeping, trying to coax it in, but I think they're pretty happy with this one. It's a really good shot. Great weight by Nadine and great response to Cheryl's throw. And there it is, right in on behind. It is straddling that center line, so in a great position. Of course, Meek and Bernard do have their yellow stone, that if they come down on that, they won't be able to get both blues out, but can certainly get them moving and regain potentially top spot there. Looks like that might be what they're contemplating. Do you make a play on it yet, or you draw down another one on top? Looks like from the position of Cheryl and the way Terry's looking at us, he's going to come down this side, duplicate Cheryl's shot, try and throw another one on top and get good positioning. It's not where you are at the beginning of the end, but where you are at the end that really, really matters. So a large part of this game is positioning those stones up front, and can't leave it too late because you may not be able to get at that one in the middle, but you do have to get positioned stones. Because it's when the last rock's thrown that decides what happens. And looks like Cheryl's happy with this. It might be a little bit heavy, but here comes Cheryl now. She's sweeping it over. She seems to really like it. And Terry's right there looking down. It's going to just come down and bump those blues. And what a great, great throw. Now they put both blues right behind the tee line. They're blocking the yellows. And it's going to be really hard for Nadine and Charlie to get those two out because there's a nice wall of their rocks there. The only good thing for them is the two yellows are overlapping a little bit, so if you get to 3/4 of that top yellow, I think you can obviously get the back one out. Might be able to spin the other one over top of the blue, but certainly Charlie can get these moving, and I do believe that's what they're looking at playing. Is it can't be too heavy because we've seen heavy rocks can float a little bit, so a little controlled weight here and get top yellow onto the back one and spin hopefully the top one out, and then they'll be sitting there probably lying 3A with the next one on the biter, but here we go with the shot. Now, nice clean release from Charlie. Nadine likes it. She's just keeping it clean, but not on it yet. Seems to be curling in nice. Here it comes. It's coming in nice. We will get contact. We are going to get movement. And I really like the weight choice here. That is a veteran move. I was looking at throwing a little more weight trying to clear them out, but Charlie and Nadine, two veterans of the game, and we'll get to meet them in a little bit here as we get on in the ends, but just showing you that was just a nice little back eight weight. It moves the two yellows, one behind the tee line and the other one out into the open, and now Charlie has command position. Charlie and Nadine, that is, on top there. And of course, with it being close to center guard, it is not going to be easy to move out, but it looks like they're going to ignore it. Bernard and Meek, and almost try to draw in on top of this situation in the top four and try and take command of that position. I got a nice shot by Terry. It's not curling in. I think that's just the difference of weight. They're going to try and catch the outside the yellow, maybe pick off that blue a little bit. So it does stick around. They do have multiple rocks in play, but as you see what's happening here, you've got quite the wall. So as Charlie and Nadine come down, even if they're a little bit heavier, a little bit outside, a lot of opportunity to jump on that early and make an extra play off it. Of course, also considering a little hit and roll over. They do have the cross house double, and I like what Nadine's showing. She knows who her partner is. That's Charlie Thomas. two-time world junior champion, certainly a very competent player, so she is not worried about him trying to throw a triple. That could be there, if nothing else, to get a little thicker and get the double and sit. You've got a lot of blues in play, and that's what we've seen here. You get a lot of rocks in play, and even though it doesn't look good at one point, one shot or a little tick or wick here, and next thing you know, there's a 3 or 4 on the board. So I like this call. There's lots of opportunities on it. They're going to try and catch this outside yellow one, come in and either get the triple if he can get it thin enough, or if it's thicker, come right across for the double and sit there. And that'll put them in great shape. They'll have a top 8 rock over top of 2 in the 4 and 1 in the back 8. But everything's accessible when you've got 6 feet of curl, so certainly not dire for Bernard and Meek as they watch on to what Charlie's going to do. He's let it go clean. He's got Nadine right on it sweeping. She's sweeping it hard. She's trying to hold it. She's got the rock. Let's see what happens here now. Okay, a little bit thicker, but you know what? A great throw, and it is now also right on that yellow one. So any kind of action to try and get these rocks moving are going to be a little problematic for Meek and Bernard, but if you do look at that, I'd say nose on that top blue or slightly on the inside. You get that back, the blues popping out the back, and the other blue moving over, and you could be sitting guarding your 2, but they are behind the tee line. So obviously Nadine and Thomas do have the advantage of last rock. They do have a number of rocks in play. Bernard and Meek have to be a bit careful because with the 2 lone yellows and 4 blues, we're getting late in the end. But looks like they're going to throw one up there in the top 4, try and draw on top of it, which is a really good call, I think, sort of half corner freeze. Instead of try to play the hit. Terry still seems to be looking at that hit. I still think he kind of likes that one a little bit, but you know, 2 veteran players will talk it out and they'll make the right decision. We probably do know that they did play together and played a Canadian championship together as a mixed team. And we'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later about the year and what they accomplished. So they are no slouches in terms of playing together and playing together at a high level. And you can see in a lot of these spousal teams, husbands and wives, great communication, great chemistry, great understanding. And we heard that when we talked to the siblings of Fowler and Fowler yesterday. They told us how what they find is that being siblings, they're able to deal with some of the emotions a lot better, and they're able to deal with some of the situations that can arise and brush it off, because the dinner table conversations when they were younger were a lot harder. Anyhow, here we go. We've got this shot coming in. Looks like a good one if it's got enough weight. Cheryl's going hard. Terry's encouraging her along. They've now slowed up. Looks like he's got just an absolute doozy. Does rub off a little bit, leaving some opportunity here to move that back a bit and maybe get sitting 2, but nevertheless a great shot. It's right in a pocket there, so it is going nowhere in one shot. Will take at least 2 to get out there, so a little deeper than they wanted. Cheryl must not know her own strength in sweeping, especially having been a skip, but we have seen a lot of skips sweeping this week, and they've done fairly well, so it's great to see. Just want to give you a quick update over on sheet 1, where we have the team of Burchard Schneider playing against Silcox and Kirak. After the first end, Burchard and Schneider took a 3, and they've just finished the second end. We haven't seen what they posted for a score, so obviously Burchard Schneider, a team in that pool that is favored to go on, and they're currently with 2 wins, so they do need to be careful, because there is the Anderson Dropkin team in that pool from the USA who have rolled off 4 straight wins, and they're in the same pool with Perrott and Rio, so it's going to be a bit of a battle here with Perrott and Rio and Burchard and Schneider to see who's going to gain that last spot in that pool. But in the meantime, what's important now is that they win, and it looks like the Silcox and Kirak did score in that end. We're just not sure how much, because I'm sorry, I take that back. Burchard and Schneider scored in the end, so we'll bring you an update once they post it. Over on sheet 4, we have the other U.S. team of Roth and Nuremberg playing against Crump and Wilson, and 2-0 after 2 ends, playing the third. Looks like Charlie really likes this, so does Nadine, and yes, pushes that yellow one in behind. So now the situation is 2 blue rocks in great position and 3 yellow stones providing great coverage for them. And of course, on the left side, Scotland and Thomas have a rock they can advance into the situation, but the out for Meek and Bernard, and you've got Cheryl Bernard, silver medalist at the Olympics, throwing this shot, is to draw down on top of those 2 blues making it very, very difficult to remove and potentially getting it close enough to get the shot rock. Always will be a shot for Nadine and Charlie, but there's a great opportunity to sort of get out of this end for Bernard and Meek if Cheryl can do as she has done so many times in her career on a final shot, make it count. All right, we're underway. Here comes Cheryl. She's released. Nice, clean, positive release on that. Terry's sweeping against it. Looks like he's trying to make sure he holds it while he brings it along. He's going really hard on it. Cheryl's giving encouragement, as we've seen all game when she throws. Really encouraging Terry. He's going hard on this. You can see it. Trying to drag it. He's dragging. It's got to get it in there for shot. Wants to get it into the touching that button. Can he get it there? Can he get it there? Oh, my word. Look at that shot. Not only did she put it right in there, she is shot rock. Well, now we have a situation for Charlie and Nadine, because that is going to be very difficult to get at on an angle in order to move it through. But I tell you, a slash on the blue across might be able to push it back through. Going to wait and see. They're the experts. Let's watch them from overhead and see what they come up with. Watch the brooms tap and see what they can figure. As you see, another potential shot is to blast the blue back and get a around the house kind of shot, bringing it off the yellows and popping it back up. Could potentially push the yellow up far enough that they might even be able to get to, but could also rub off of theirs. You certainly have an excellent thrower in Charlie Thomas throwing this, so really any shot's available because Charlie can throw any shot. All right, Nadine settled in here. He's got Terry on the broom, and it's going to be Nadine throwing, not Charlie. My apologies. Last rock, choosing to have Nadine throw 1 and 5 and Charlie 2, 3, and 4. Nadine's let it go. She's watching line. Charlie's on it, sweeping. He's going hard. Charlie got to get it by. Got to get it by that top one. Got to get it by the top one. He does. Let's see what happens now around the horn. And yes, what a shot by Nadine. Uncertain who's going to be shot. This is really, really close. In curling, tie means both rocks don't count. And if both rocks don't count, then we have a blank end. So we'll wait and see what they come up with. This is something we leave up to the players. The officials only get involved if the players want them to come out and be a third party to it. But in the meantime, we're going to see if they can get a stick on this. Not sure there's much room, but they do make these measuring devices in such a way that you can measure even the closest thing. Charlie and Nadine are taking an overlook, but what a spectacular shot by Nadine Scotland. Just throwing a bullet down, raising it and around the horn and getting it to come back up and possibly into shot position. But even if it isn't, an absolutely fantastic shot by Nadine. We have seen some amazing curling this week. You'll recall yesterday on this ice when we watched the ladies duel it out, and here again Bernard throwing a doozy right down into shot stone, very pressure last rock, and Nadine Scott answering with an absolute hit round the horn and up. So let's see if it was enough to count one. Well, it's going around the horn and round and round. We hopefully aren't going to get dizzy watching this. I don't know if Charlie's painting out there, but here we come around the other way. We're going to see. We're going to look at it from overhead. Obviously, our view is good, not great, but you might be able to see what happens. I think it's blue. I think it's blue. No indication yet. No emotions being shown here. Sometimes that makes it hard to tell. Oh, Terry points to Cheryl. Wherever she puts this rock will tell us. She puts it at the back of the 4, which she's doing means they have hammer, which means 1 for blue. So obviously they were hoping to get more and get a little closer in this game, but given the situation they're left after Cheryl's last rock, I'm sure they'll be happy to get that one. Oh, look at that. This is what we call sportsmanship and teamsmanship in this game. Cheryl willing to place that rock out there for Nadine and Charlie, so he didn't have to run down and do it. And something that's great about curling, great about it, they're just great people. It's still a great sport and good camaraderie, and you see it in the lounge here, you see it while the other players are watching the games, and you certainly see it on the house. One of the things that makes this game great is things like that. So great sportsmanship by Cheryl helping them out. All right, Nadine's going to get us underway here. She's throwing 1 in 5 rocks, just threw an absolute spectacular shot. Let's see now if she's got the touch of draw weight after throwing a bullet of a hit on just her previous shot. Charlie's on it, and Dean's joining her. They do want to get this by and around into the back one. They do want to take advantage of this center line guard and the situation that they get to start the end in. And not quite enough weight. That will crash on the front. Still, 2 rocks that are usable, 2 rocks blocking the center line, and of course with Bernard and Meek's rock behind the tee line, still lots of opportunity early in this end. Of course, as we've learned throughout the week, and for many of those who know mixed double, you cannot take out a rock until the 4th rock thrown. That's what creates so much of the offense. And in this case, rather than peeling the front away, which you might do in the old game, of course, with the free rock zone, you wouldn't be able to do it anyways in the new game. They'll just elect to draw around and try and absolutely freeze this on top of their other rock and get 2 buried behind that center line. Terry's going really hard to get around. I don't know if it's going to get around. It seems to be crashing in, but it doesn't. It gets all the way around and just over curls a bit and pops out in the open. So Cheryl throwing really well today, just a little heavy on that, not what she would absolutely want, but 2 Yellowstones are in the house, and something that Scotland and Thomas will have to just be a little cautious of as we get going through the end. But here we go. Charlie's going to try and just put one down on top 4. Here goes Nadine. Well, she's on and off, so looks pretty good with the weight. She's going a little harder now. So looks like it needs a little bit. Nope, she's off again. So she's got a great line. Looks like great weight. So let's see how this rock ends up in the house. Oh, it just wrecks on the front. Oh, I don't think that was expected because they were on and off again. As you can see, that ended up in just biting the top 8. So I say a top 4 weight. They just misread that line a little bit. We're just going to take a quick moment while we wait for Meek and Bernard to decide on their shot to say thank you to our sponsors. Qualico is our major sponsor. That's why we call it the Qualico Mixed Doubles Classic. We have Malcolm Hotel, Vision Electronics, and Bow Valley Credit Union, our silver sponsors, and a number of local businesses and some curling businesses you can see there that we also want to say thank you to. Back to our game, we've got Meek and Bernard looking to clear up this front. They don't like the fact that there's 3 blues that can be advanced in and is blocking with theirs behind the tee line. So they're going to remove this center line guard. A very smart play because they're 2 stones while they are sitting 2 in the house. We're not in a great position and very usable for Scotland and for Thomas. So electing to clear that out, keep it a little open. They do have the 4-1 lead with hammer, so it's not like they have to aggressively score multiples every end. When you get a big lead like that, your best friend is the finish line. And so certainly early in this game, and lots of points can be scored, but no sense leaving a situation that can get away from you, especially when you're up 4-1 with hammer. Charlie was quick in the hack there. Nadine's getting her gripper on. Looks like they're going to draw around, use their guards to get one probably on the edge of the 4-foot behind their blue rock on the right-hand side. Charlie just threw perfect weight in his last one. Just needs to duplicate that and get the right line, and he should be able to put one in there really well. Here comes the rock. It's coming down. It's coming down. Looks like they might just be bumping theirs back. In fact, that's what they're doing, and a perfect raise. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do it. That rock went straight dead back. So there we go. Not only do they get the raise back, but they get a second blue one in the house up there guarding it. So they're starting to create a little bit of offense of their own and are sitting in a really good position. Well, as Cheryl and Terry consider their options here, looks like she likes the hit. That's what she's pointing out to Terry. Should let you know, we talked a little bit earlier about them playing together. And in 1993, Terry and Cheryl teamed up together, and they won the provincial mixed, and they lost in the Canadian final that year. So Canadian silver medalists when they play together in the four-person mixed game in 1993, and certainly since then have played many times together. We should say they are really local celebrities and local heroes here in Banff and in Canmore. They have come up for many years from Calgary to play in a lot of the Bondsfields here, and a lot of the locals know them. A lot of locals come to watch them, and when they heard they're in the field, a lot of people were delighted to get reunited and say hello. And as we know, both Cheryl and Terry, very outgoing people who are always willing to talk and meet the local folks. So just a great team, and someone that people in Banff and Canmore love to give a shout out to and say thanks for coming up, and once again thanks for supporting the events that we put on here. Two great ambassadors for the game of curling in Alberta. So Terry making a really good shot. They removed that problem rock that was in the top of the house that could have been used later by Charlie and Nadine, that was guarding their shot rock, and was able to move the shot rock over into second stone. So yellow now sitting behind cover shot rock. It is behind the tee line, and I think Charlie will try to draw around that top yellow one and bury it over on top of those yellow-blue situation. And the way this ice is curling over 6 feet, it can certainly be done, especially with that nice soft weight. So they're happy with this. They're not jumping on it for line, but Nadine's now going. So she's certainly trying to hold it out there in that curling, trying to keep it out there behind, get around that yellow rock. The weight looks really good if they can get it around. It looks like they do have it around, and they do. Now they're going to watch it just hook over on top. Oh my. What an amazing shot. Charlie on fire here in this third end, throwing two great shots. First, the straight back raise, forcing the double attempt, and now coming around the center line, coming out the other side on top of that situation, blue and yellow in the back. So certainly in a great situation with those staggered guards. So if you look at the yellow in the top of the house, and as you look down the sheet there, you can see that blue rock just off to the right, protecting their shot rock. So Cheryl and Terry can certainly play a run back on that yellow into the blue, or they do have room to draw around on top, freeze there, and just tap it a bit and get shot rock on top. Of course, that really does narrow down the scoring area. So depending what they're thinking in terms of wanting to scoring, they can run this one back so they can still score multiples. If they draw around, it might force them only into getting the one. Looks like they've made the decision to hit. Charlie's let it go. Cheryl's keeping it clean. It's starting to float out a little bit. It's not coming back as much. Here it comes now. Let's see if they've got the right angle. Oh, no, they don't. And you know what? That wasn't actually as bad as it might have looked to people. They did clear away their own yellow. That was second shot. But it does clear away all that backing, which wasn't going to help them with that blue rock there. The nice thing here, they've moved that stone, the primary stone, the center line, guarding that situation in the 4 foot, and they cleared the backing. So obviously it gives them access to that blue rock. And even though there's a second one in the house, they do have last rock this end. So certainly if the house keeps this clear, we'll be able to, that rock shouldn't come into play, especially with Cheryl Bernard throwing that last stone. Something else about Terry Meek that we learned in 2009. He was an alternate on Kevin Martin's team that won the Canadian Championship, the Brier as we call it. And that year they went on and won the silver medal at the Worlds. He did play 2 games for the team at the Worlds as the alternate and got to join them. So what a great experience for Terry in that year. We often underestimate an alternate. Sometimes we think it's just someone who gets to go along for the ride and a trip. And I'm not the right person to tell you everything they do, but I certainly can tell you from what I've seen and in talking to coaches, those alternates are kept busy. They're watching other teams, they're watching other stones, they're watching other sheets. They're doing a lot of intelligence work, and they're out there helping the coach to make sure that all that information is used and parlayed. And even in some cases, we've seen the alternate goes out for timeout. So again, that alternate role is not just one where you go along and watch. You are put to work, and you are part of that team. So Terry in 2009, enjoying that opportunity with Kevin Martin, and would have been some great experience. Well, Charlie Martin back at it again. Not Charlie Martin, Charlie Thomas. Kevin Martin. Anyways, Charlie Thomas back at it again, and with Nadine guiding it, they put a great shot on top of that center line. They're now guarding their shot stone, and they're lying 3 in the house. So certainly they don't have last rock, but they're building in the house and 1 on the button. A really good situation for Nadine Scott and Charlie Thomas to steal, but we've got Cheryl Bernard and we've got Terry Meek here are going to answer the call. And I should correct that. That was not Charlie throwing that shot. That was Nadine who threw that wonderful shot into the top 12. My apologies to Nadine. That's what happens when you look down for a moment. Cheryl settled in. She made an amazing shot in number 2 that was answered by Nadine. Let's see if Cheryl can now answer back Nadine's guard by drawing around to this stone. It's certainly accessible with 6-meter curl. It just needs to move it maybe an inch and she can get shot rock. So it's out of her hands. Terry is right on it. He's off again. It's always a good sign when you're on and off because it means weight is close. Looks like they've got enough line, but it is hanging out there. Looks like it might be a little bit heavy. Might be a bit heavy because that's not coming over. There won't be contact, I don't think, and it'll go back. Can Charlie take it? No. So certainly it's still a great throw. That's back 4 weight, but just a little bit too much weight, so it didn't come. It's only a steal of 1 though. Puts Meek and Bernard up 4-2 still, but certainly going the other way for Bernard and Meek. But 2 great curlers. I'm sure they'll bounce right back. So after 3 ends, we're sitting at 4-2 for Bernard and Meek, and Bernard and Meek do have the last stone as we enter this 4th end. Talking about Nadine Scotland. Actually, Charlie Thomas entered this event with Val Sweeting. Unfortunately, Val was not able to come, and Nadine answered the call. Nadine used to be Nadine Chiz. She's now Nadine Scotland. She got married in Scotland in 2017. She is taking a year off competitive curling this year. She has curled quite a bit and quite successfully. In fact, in 2016, she skipped a team that won the Avenir Cash Spiel. They then won the Crestwood Ladies Fall Classic. Interesting enough, our lead ice person here helping us out in Banff, Kevin Beauchamp, who we met twice already. He is the ice maker at Crestwood, so a great club. In 2016, that's where Nadine won the Ladies Fall Classic. Then she went on to win the Curl Messaby in Minnesota, and of course play in the Olympic pre-trials in 2017 en route. They didn't make it, obviously, but it was the pre-trials to go to the 2018 Olympics. So Nadine, a great curler. She's taking the year off from playing on a team competitively this year, but no slouch, and does not have seemed to have lost any of her touch here as she plays with Charlie Thomas in this Qualico Mixed Doubles Championship. And right there, what a great throw. Nadine throws it right on the top button, the spot that you would place it if you had the choice. Don't need to with the talent of Nadine, and she places it there by throwing it regularly. Now Cheryl Bernard has as often all game with Nadine and Cheryl. We'll try to answer that call. She's got her rock coming down now. Terry's holding off it. He likes it. It's starting to come a little bit now. Looks like he's controlling it there, and he's on it to hold it on that guard. Cheryl's bar yelling at him. He's off. He's off. It's got to come down. I do want to push this. It's not just a freeze. In many cases, you want to freeze on top of that, but in this situation, just push it through and gets it into the back, something they can use for backing, and sits on top of that T-line. So early on, sitting 2 with hammer, but lots of stones to come in this end. As we take a look over onto sheet 1, where we have the team of Silcox and Keurig playing against Schneider and Burchard. Schneider and Burchard did steal 2 in the second, and Silcox Keurig came back with 1 in the third. So we're sitting at 5-1 after 3 in that sheet. Looking at Pro and Rios, who are playing against Just and Wills. We watched Justin Wills play right here yesterday. A really strong, good game. Pere and Rios needing a win, as does Schneider and Burchard, are in a commanding 4-0 lead, having taken 1 in the first, 2 in the second, and stealing 2 in the third. So they're up 4-0. As we watch Charlie Thomas's shot come down here, it's going to want to get to the inside of the yellow. It does, and as we've seen, not wanting to take that out, just push it to the back, leave some backing, and of course sit right there on top. So a great position stone for Charlie and Nadine now, with that blue stone just up on top. As we move over to the sheet 4, we can see after 4 ends, playing the 5th, Crump and Wilson took 1, so it is 2-1 for Roth and Nürnberger, leading Crump and Wilson in this game. I take it back. In the 3rd end, Roth and Nürnberger did take 3, so I take it back. It is 5-1 on that sheet. 5-1 for Roth and Nürnberger over Crump and Wilson, and they are playing in the 5th end. So Terry Meek settles in. He's coming down now on this shot. Got Cheryl on the sweep. He's trying to duplicate what Terry did. A little bit of extra weight to bump this yellow one back. Do want to try and cross the face if they can. That would keep their other yellow one in play. Here it comes. Here it comes. It's coming nice. And Cheryl's going to directionally sweep that over. Something she's talked about herself a lot in commentating, and Terry has thrown an absolute doozy. Not only did he push that back, but he has got his to roll right over underneath that guard, partly blocking the draw in that Charlie's going to throw, but also fully buried. So good situation here in the midsection of this end for Bernard and Meek. As they lie two with hammer, but you've got Charlie Thomas who's going to try and hook one around and sit as much as he can on top of that back yellow one. And as we said, 6 feet of curl, he can probably get at least half to 3/4 around that top yellow onto the back one. So here goes Charlie through 2 great stones last end. Let's see if he can answer again this end with his throw. He's got it underway. Nadine's just keeping it clean, so you know that's a good sign. She's on, she's off. She's just keeping a good eye, and Charlie's watching line. This rock's coming in really nice. Does have to hurl. Here it goes. Here it goes. It's got to be played really tight to that top one, so they're letting it go. You know what? Maybe a rock too heavy and 2 inches out, but on such a precision shot. A great shot there by Charlie. But it does leave the chance for Terry to come right down on top and freeze on that and take away Charlie from playing that shot another time. May want to just hit it back a little bit and roll in 2 is another option. So we'll see what they come up with. Of course, that blue rock out front is certainly one that Nadine and Charlie can use to advance back into the situation and get them out of it. Good news is they do have 3 blue in there, so if the yellows start moving, there could be a large number in the steal. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's watch Terry throw his stone down. A great chance to come in and get on top of that back 4 rocks and lie 3 in the process. So the rock's on its way. Cheryl's on it. Looks like she's directionally sweeping to hold it out. She feels it needs to be held a little bit so it doesn't overcurl. Weight's looking good because it is just bumping. And this certainly looks like good rate coming in. She's now off. They really like this shot, and as they should. Here it goes. Cheryl now pushing it in, and a great shot. Does leave, though, because of the fact they didn't get quite to the inside of that, does leave the chance for Charlie to come down and just a little rub off that, push it back and flop over on top and be right in between those 2 yellows as shot stone. So really good chance here for Charlie and Nadine to get themselves into a wonderful situation on Charlie's next shot. All right, Charlie settles in the house. Again, he's going to try and come down on that rock that's just behind the tee line, biting the button. Going to try and move that back into the back 8 and flop over into the button, hopefully fully buried, and into a great scoring opportunity. Nadine's sweeping this. She's holding it out there. I think it's also for weight. It looks a little bit lighter than maybe they wanted. She's going hard on this to try and hold it there. It's coming, but it's got to go. It's got to go. Nadine's been working hard all the way down, and I think she's going to get it by... Oh, it does just wreck on that. But good news, second shot, and it is sitting right on top of that yellow one, and it'll be a tricky rock for them to deal with. So not all that bad. It did just crash. Could that have gotten by, though? It would have been an absolute beauty. But it is a game of inches, and the inches always don't go your way. Looks like they're going to try and play a bit of weight down and get to the inside of that blue and remove that stone out the side, push their own yellow back, but they'll be sitting in a good position if they do that with 2 yellows on top of the button and 1 in the back. The danger, of course, is you get that outside a little bit, you could advance the blue right into that pocket. So we'll wait and see what they want to do. Now they're looking at maybe instead just trying to draw down into that pocket so that if there is a play on this situation by Nadine and Charlie, they won't be able to get the blue as easily into the center because they'd have to just touch the outside of the rock. Looks like that's what they want to call. As is usually the case, we'll have to wait till Terry lets it go because they're electing not to have anybody in the house holding the broom, something we've seen a lot of, and using that sweeping power because in the normal game you get 2 sweepers and they can brush it all the way down the house, and you've got someone in the house calling line. In this game, the person who throws often has to help with line, and there is no one in the house for that job and only 1 sweeper most of the way. So we'll let you know in a moment when Terry lets us go what the plan is. But I think the final plan they came on was to draw down into the crotch of those 2 top rocks, the yellow and blue rock. Terry settle, and here we go. Yep, he released that rock just inside the outside 12, so that's certainly not a hit. So this is definitely a drawdown into the situation. It was a little inside what we would expect for this shot in terms of the ice. It is hooking over, but Cheryl's trying to hold it there. Can she hold it to keep the line? They seem to be losing it, and it seems to be over curling towards the yellow. Let's see if the weight's right and they'll hold the line. Well, not all that bad as we said. Does advance it back, but blue still said shot, and it is fully exposed. So looks like a good opportunity here to advance their blue off yellow, leave a bit of protection to it, and hopefully get a bit of an inside roll. We'll have to be careful because any rock that touches that top yellow is going to hit the other yellow back towards the button. So we'll wait and see. Let's watch from overhead as Nadine and Charlie show us what they want to do and what kind of weight they want to play. All right, as we get ready for Nadine and Charlie to throw their shot, we just want to say welcome to the new viewers who've just joined us, and thank you to those that have been following us all week and who are there from the beginning. Just want to remind any of the local viewers that we do have in Canmore today at 4:30 the junior team of Villemere and Ishida, two Banff curlers, two juniors, two future stars in the game, playing against the undefeated Fowler and Fowler, the British team. Anna Fowler, of course, defending national champion for the English, and Ben, her sibling brother, who's joined her now. Ben has won 3 previous championships of his own with a different partner and twice with his sibling. So they're a great team. They're going to be playing in a couple of weeks for the English Championship again, a chance to go to the Worlds. But right now they're going to be playing against Villemere and Ishida this afternoon at 4:30. Don't miss it. 2 young great curlers and 2 great mixed doubles curlers from England. 4:30 at the Canmore Golf and Curling Club. If you can make it in person, great. If you can't, tune in and watch us. Here we go. We got Charlie going really hard. They just need to move this a little. How far do they move it? And oh, what a great shot. Nadine is curling absolutely fantastic. I would say if there's any women's team out there watching, they might try to coax her out of this retirement this year because she is curling absolutely unbelievable. Of course, as we said earlier in the broadcast, Charlie was slated to play with Val Sweeting in this event. Val couldn't make it. Nadine has stepped in very, very well. The team is 3-0 at the top of their pool. They want to win this game to stay at that 4-0 and make the way to the championship. Of course, Cheryl Bernard and Terry Meek have 2 wins of their own. This would be a big win for them if they can. They'd hold a tiebreaker with the win over this team. So great game, a lot at stake here, and we're getting some wonderful curling. It is, of course, 4-2 as we play the 4th end. So this is our last stone of the end. It will be delivered by Cheryl Bernard. The team of Meek and Bernard choosing to have Cheryl throw the first and last stones of each end, and Terry Meek throwing the 3 rocks in the middle. Same thing is happening on the Scotland and Thomas team, where Nadine Scotland is throwing the 1st and 5th, and we have Charlie Thomas throwing rocks 2, 3, and 4. So Cheryl's let it go. She'll call line as Terry sweeps. He is off it. He's off. They're looking to pick that blue across and make the double. He's trying to sweep it over. Can it come? No, it won't. And once again, Thomas and Scotland calmly and coolly picking away at that early 4-0 lead with 2 steals in a row. This team with a lot of experience wouldn't have been fazed by that early mishap, and of course are making their way back in this game. They aren't 3-0 for nothing, as they'd say, and making their way back in. So we're halfway through this game. It is 4-3 for Meek and Bernard. They do have last rock as well, but certainly the momentum switching towards Scotland and Thomas. And Nadine just playing amazing on her last stones, taking nothing away from Charlie, of course. Cheryl answering most of the time. In that case, just barely missing. It was a very, very tough shot she threw. Had to catch about a quarter of that blue and just wasn't quite able to execute. So at the beginning of the second half of the game, the 5th end, Nadine's going to get us going. She's going to draw around to the top of the 4 or just to the back 1 and try and push it into the back 8 and sit on top fully buried. Here we go to delivery, and Charlie on the sweep. As this rock goes down the ice, we did get a chance to talk a little bit about Terry Meek earlier and his play in that championship with Kevin Martin, and of course his play with Cheryl in the mixed. We all know a lot about Cheryl Bernard, and we'll tell you a little bit about it. She was born in Grand Prairie, Alberta, and she did start curling at the age of 8, 1992. She did win the Scotties Tournament of Hearts. In 1996, she won the provincials again after being runner-up in 1995, and she went to the Scotties Tournament of Hearts all the way to the finals. She beat Marilyn Badeau in the 1-2 game in the playoffs, but couldn't beat her in the finals, and the Ontario Skip Badeau was able to win, and Cheryl settled for silver that year. She played the 1999 Skins game. In 2007, she once again repeated as the Alberta champion. And in 2010, you'll recall she took that great run in the Olympics, first of all to get to the Olympics, and then through the Olympics, and she ended up finishing as the silver medalist at those Olympic Games in 2010. In 2012, Cheryl was awarded the John Mead Builders Award by Curling Canada for someone who significantly contributes to the growth and development of women's curling in Canada. After retiring in 2014, she took to the broadcast booth. Many of us have listened to her on TSN. She's done obviously a lot of commentating. She does come to Banff when we host the Skins game, which has been quite frequently. She'll be back again in February on the broadcast, in the broadcast booth. We look forward to hearing her do all the commentating. And lastly, of course, last year at age 51, she was the alternate to Team Holman at the 2018 Olympics. At that age, she was the oldest athlete competing at the games. So a big shout out to Cheryl Bernard. Still has game, as we can see here today, and great to see her and Terry Meek out playing. I asked her about her enjoyment of commentating and the like, and she loves it, but she said being here today, I guess this week, she's really enjoyed the chance to get out and compete again. She doesn't get to do it much, so when she gets these opportunities, she really takes it in. She enjoys obviously the competition. She enjoys being around the players, and she, of course, with her pedigree and background, has been just a great ambassador for the sport. I know they like having her around. So we do look forward to having Cheryl back in the booth in a few weeks here as she commentates during the TSN Skins game. That'll be coming to you live here in Banff. So if you can make it up, come on up and watch it. It's always a lot of fun, a fun format. If not, it will be televised by none other than TSN. Right, back to our game here. We see the situation at hand. We have blue rock sitting on top of the yellow just off the pin. And we've got a blue-yellow stagger in the house with, of course, one blue rock dissecting the center line out as a guard, that being the rock that was placed at the beginning of the end. It looks like Terry's trying to come down and just bump their yellow rock back into Shot's rock on top of the blue. And here it comes. It's hooking in really nice. As we've talked, 6 feet of curl, lots of room to move, but obviously hard to judge on the sweep. It is going to over curl a little bit and does tap off that top blue, but it does leave them another usable stone. By pushing that blue out, though, it's an opportunity here for Charlie on his shot to just tap it back and get two of them really nicely laid on the button here, and start to build a bit of an advantage as we get through the center part of this end. Want to thank the sponsors? Or all right, Charlie's let that shot go, and Nadine is sort of just keeping it clean. She seems to like it. The hand up indicates it doesn't need to go any faster, and perhaps could slow down. She's moving over to try and directionally sweep this. In fact, it looks like they're actually going to be drawing around it, whether that's by second decision or the fact that it was a bit heavy. No, I do think they were trying to play the tap. That was weight definitely to tap their blue rock back in the situation, but just not quite getting the line right on that, and it sailed by. Either that or it was just a bit heavier than he had hoped. So a very rare miss by Charlie here in this fifth end is going to give a little bit of an opportunity for Bernard and Meek to take advantage of the situation. Let's thank our sponsors. So first, our major sponsor, the Qualico Mixed Double Classic, is brought to you by Qualico. We also have our silver sponsors, the Malcolm Hotel, Vision Electronics, and Bow Valley Credit Union, and our many local sponsors who stepped up to help us in so many ways, not just support for the event, but they've been out to cheer it on, and just great to have such a supportive local community in Banff and Canmore who are behind this event. So thank you very much. Well, as we get ready for Terry to throw this rock, we met Nadine earlier. Let's talk a little about Charlie, who was born in Canada. He currently skips his own rink on the World Curling Tour with Adam Casey at third, Patrick Jansen second, and lead Fraser Reed. Charlie's top ranking he reached as a skip in the tour rankings was 9th in 2015 and 2016. He was the 2004 Alberta Junior Champion. In 2006, he was the Alberta Canadian and World Champion, something that he then repeated in 2007. And interesting enough, in 2007, when he won the Canadian Championship, he beat none other than Brett Gallant's PEI team. And again, when he went to the Worlds and he repeated and he won the championship, who was the skip that he beat? Well, it was from Sweden, and it was none other than Nicholas Edin. So certainly Charlie playing at a time with the greats of Brett Gallant and Nicholas Edin, and still a very good curler, still out there curling with his own team, and has had a number of successes over the year, but obviously a stellar junior career here when he played in Alberta at his junior time. Well, he settled down the hack here. He's looking to, with Nadine, to get going here and hopefully guard this situation up. All right, Terry's out we go with Charlie. He's let it go. Nadine is on it. She's going pretty hard right now, so obviously wanting to hold it out there as long as she can, because we do know this snaps at the end. Here it comes. I think he's actually playing the raise on his own blue again. He's trying to tap it back and use the shot stone as the guard and put another shot into play here. So, really good throw. Does accomplish it. He is sitting one, or they are sitting 1 and 2 with a bit of a block on top. Of course, they're not that far apart, and Terry, with a little bit of weight, can get these rocks moving. Obviously would lose the back yellow, but that is something that's going to happen eventually if they're going to score. They're going to have to get that back blue moving, and it won't be without the cost of that black yellow. Well, obviously they're trying to decide the best way to come at this. Do they play their own yellow into it, or do they play blue on blue on blue, or need to decide here what they how they want to approach it. A really good dialogue, and hopefully from the overhead view that Saxby's showing you, you can get a bit of a handle on the conversation they're having and thoughts on strategy. So I'll let you watch that while they make their decision. All right, looks like they've come up with a decision. So Terry's getting ready to throw this rock with Cheryl sweeping. As we've said all week, mostly no one holding the broom in the house. Terry will pick his spot where he wants to go at and aim true and throw. All right, he's let it go. He's obviously advancing his own yellow back into the blues. Cheryl's sweeping to hold it out there. He's holding it out there. Here it comes. Oh, and it just misses hitting that back blue. Oh, a great try by Terry there. Does leave them obviously with 3 stones around one lonely blue, but that lonely blue is locked on in the back. And that top yellow is a very dangerous stone because it's something that Cheryl on her last stone can just tap back in. So we are down to the last 2 stones this end. Nadine Scotland will throw the first one of those. The last stone for Thomas and Scotland, and then we'll get Cheryl Bernard's answer after that. Looks like they're trying to line up a double to get rid of the 2 yellows and then have that rock just squeak back, partly covering the blue but getting back into the 4-foot and maybe even getting in for second shot. All right, well, we get ready for Nadine to deliver the last rock. Just an update over on sheet 1. Burchard and Schneider managed to take 5 in the 5th end. Like we said, big scores are out there. So they're now 10-3 over Silcox and Keurig, who managed to score 2 and 4. So 10-3. Playing back in the 6th, I imagine that unless Silcox and Keurig can take a number here, that this will probably be their last end. But we'll wait and see. Just a few more rocks to come in that end. On sheet 2, Justin Wills got on the board in 4, so it's 4-1 for Rios and Perret. And here comes Nadine Scotland throwing her final stone of the end. And Charlie's going hard on it now. He's sweeping hard, trying to hold. They are trying to play the double. Let's see, do they get the double in the roll? And they do. What an absolutely fantastic shot. I do know that they won't be as excited as they'd hoped to be because they did leave a pocket for Cheryl to draw into, or a hit for Cheryl. But it still was a wonderful attempt. Got rid of the 2 yellows, which were in way, and I'd hoped just to slide back into the 4-foot and leave the situation in the back partly guarded, but it's hard to control when you're throwing that much weight and making such a delicate shot. Nevertheless, Nadine executing extremely well on that shot, as she has all game. And Cheryl still has to make this draw. She will have backing, and they do know the line, having played obviously the sheet all game, so we would expect Cheryl to make this, but it's never made till it's made. Terry's coming down now. They've already picked the spot out. They've tapped it. They've visualized it. Terry coming down now to help sweep because want to make sure that that they've got help if they need it for weight, or hold the line if they need it for direction. Cheryl's getting settled to throw. All right, Cheryl's released it. It's on its way. Nice positive release. Something that on these really curly ice, you need that positive release. A little more rotation. If not, the rock can really get away from you. Now, Terry's going hard on this. He's trying to hold it. He also doesn't want to over curl. First of all, he doesn't want to hit that top rock. It is not. That rock looks light, and it is down on top of the blue. So that is a big steal of 3. A rare miss by Cheryl. Just not the right weight. Just not the right weight. So just coming up short and giving that 3. So now all of a sudden, after falling behind early 4-0, and being forced to 1 in the second end, Nadine Scotland and Charlie Thomas have shown why they're 3-0 and undefeated. And stole one, and now have stolen 3, and they are up 6-4. Good news for Bernard and Meek is that they are having hammer, and they are still able to score in the even end. So if they play this right, they can score in 6 and 8 to only Thomas and Nadine's ability to score in 7. So certainly not all lost. Not going the way they want, but this is a competitive quality team in Bernard and Meek. I'm sure they'll shake this off and we will see them finish strong. Meanwhile, we're seeing what they call the power play, where the rocks are moved over to the side. There's a guard put out front. It's 3 feet 7 inches off the center line, and the rock in the house is put straddling the 8 and 12 foot with the back of the rock on the tee line, and it's in a perfect line back to the hack. Of course, we mark all these spots ahead of the event. We use loonies here in Banff. The ice maker Brian wanting to use loonies, probably thinking about the Olympic hockey team when they buried the loonie in the center ice. Nevertheless, that's what's used to mark the spots to help the players get them situated. And we're now underway here in the 6th end. So a lot of confidence and a lot of good feeling here in Scotland and Thomas, the way they've been playing the last few ends after the slow start. And Nadine once again on her first rock, drawing around on top of that yellow, getting a little bit of coverage on it, making it hard to tap by it. Certainly available and accessible though if they do want to just tap it back into the back 12 and sit in the top 12. So lots of options for Meek and Bernard. The good thing for them is with the power play, it takes the play over to the side of the rings and does leave the center of the ice open, so that if things don't go as well, they hopefully can get out of the end by using the whole other side of the ice to draw in behind. Cheryl's got a great one coming. Terry's trying to hold it to get it by as well as get the weight down. Looks to be a really good throw. Coming right down on top of that blue. Wonderful shot. Not only is it partly tucked behind, but it also unlocks the blue from the yellow so that in a future shot it can be moved out. So certainly building some offense early here, Bernard and Meek. But Thomas quite confidently tatted in front there. He's going to come down and freeze on top of this situation. As we talked about earlier in another draw, most of the teams, all but one actually, when the power play has been played, has chosen to come down along the board side and push their guard rock towards the center line and roll out the shooter to expose the back rock and either get a rock in play or a center line guard. Only Perret and Rios didn't do that in an earlier game, and here Thomas and Scotland also electing not to do that, keeping the offense going. And I think that's probably part of the reason why they've been curling great. They've been able to take advantage of situations. Might feel like they're curling better and they don't want to give up the offense. So we're keeping the foot to the pedal to the metal and the foot to the floor and keeping it going here, trying to continue to generate points and put this game away. That rock not quite curling as much as they'd hoped, but certainly in a great position, being on top of everything, very usable to advance back into those yellow rocks, and of course guarding their shot stone, the blue stone. So a really good result there for Charlie and Nadine to guard shot rock and make a usable stone. It'd also be hard to remove when they're allowed to remove it, just because there's lots of rocks in the house of their own, Meek and Bernard, that could get in the way. All right, Terry settled in. Cheryl's ready to sweep. And here we go. This is, of course, the 4th rock in the end, so they are enabled to remove a stone now from play, and that's exactly what they're looking to do. They want to get rid of that top blue one. Might be able to get the double on it. Oh, just missed. Oh, it was a very, very difficult shot. Terry just missing on the execution. Good news is, though, that whole left side's blocked off. They have 2 stones buried in behind. That other one up top is biting, and that is a lonely blue that if Meek and Bernard ever get at it, could leave them lying 4. So this is just a great example how you look to be in good shape, buried behind everything, and sitting 1. But one missed shot here by Nadine Scotland and Charlie Thomas could give a huge advantage right back to Bernard and Meek. I know Charlie was wanting to draw the open side. It would be a great strategy. It avoids getting into a double situation. It makes Bernard and Meek have to play the 2 stones very far apart at some point to generate their score. Of course, the shot has to be made, so we'll see if that's what they end up deciding to do. Charlie's had good draw weight, has had good control of his stones throughout this game, but again, the concern would be if for whatever reason he managed to not make the shot, it will leave a great opportunity for Bernard and Meek to do what they did in the first end and take a big score. As you can see, I think they're reconsidering the shot. Of course, if you do try to draw around the situation on the left side, you could potentially leave a double, as we just saw Terry try on the last attempt. So you do have to be careful of that, because if that back blue goes, then there's quite a good situation set up on the left for Meek and Bernard. Just a reminder, while they look at this shot and make a final decision, we will be heading over to Canmore at the conclusion of this game and getting set up to bring you our next game in the schedule at 11:30. And that game will be Skazli Nedgrotten. They are undefeated in their pool. They're the Norwegians, who are the bronze medalists from the 2018 Olympics, and they'll be playing Canadian Walker and Walker. Walker and Walker suffering their first defeat last night at the hands of Brendan Botcher and Bobby Sauter, right here on sheet 4. In fact, Botcher and Sauter took 2 in the 8th end to tie that and managed to steal in the extra that win, giving Walker and Walker their first loss. So it's a battle of the two top teams. Certainly Walker and Walker want to win that. They don't want to drop the 2 losses. It will bring other people back in the field. Groton and Skazlian are pretty clear out in front. Very likely will make it through as one of the top 1, if not 2 seeds, based on the fact that they have beaten everybody else and have this 1 game left against Walker Walker. So we'll wait and see how that unfolds. That will be at 11:30 today. Meanwhile, back to our game. As you can see from the scoreboard, after an early 4-0 lead, Nadine Scotland and Charlie Thomas have taken control of this game after being forced to a 1-2 with steals in 3, 4, and 5. They lead 6-4. However, with the power play invoked here, Meek and Bernard have been able to create a bit of a situation. Yes, Scotland and Thomas are shot rock, but there's a number of yellows in the house, and one little misstep, one rock not right, could give them the opportunity to do what they did in 1 and score a multiple. Looks like they decided on the shot. We'll settle right back down. Let's see what Charlie does. Looks like he's going to play a hit on this. Here we go. It's underway. Nadine's sweeping hard. Charlie is calling her. Oh my. What a shot. Not just to call that shot, but to make it. He runs back that yellow, gets rid of the 2 in the house, and leaves his blue shot. He's smiling. I think he's just as happy and surprised that it came off the way it did. Obviously, Nadine, a big part of that. She swept that almost all the way, and she swept that hard. But what a great shot. Obviously, the first thought was to draw the open side sit 2, but no, they took on that tough challenge, because had that curled just a little more, it could have picked out their back blue and left Meek and Bernard late in the end sitting 3. But no, Charlie, a tremendous competitor, as we learned about his successes to date, and Nadine as well. So what a great execution, and probably the reason that they're one of the top in this pool and have played so well so far. But here we go. Meek is going to try and draw down on top of this blue in the 8-foot. Try and get a good angle on that, slightly behind the other blue that's guarding it, and hopefully try to still generate the 2 points here in this 6th end. Cheryl's trying to directionally sweep it over. It does look like it has a little extra weight, though. Looks like they're now going to have to go behind it. And Charlie jumps in. He's trying to take it back, and he does. So can he get it back far enough to get it out of the rings? Hard to tell. It's hard to tell these overhead angles, but I would think that it is in there for a second shot. So the situation we have is we have Nadine Scotland, Charlie Thomas are sitting the 1 behind cover, as you can see from that great angle. Thank you, Saxby. Saxby Young, that is. He's been bringing us the production all weekend, unlike myself, who got a break. Nope, Saxby is at the computer. He's been there from early morning to later. So thank you very much. This great overhead is brought to you by him. Anyways, Charlie and Nadine are settled down in. They're sitting in a really good situation here. This will be Charlie's last shot of the end. And here it comes. Here we go. Nadine sweeping it. Trying to judge the weight properly. Trying to judge this properly. Wants it to sit down, though. Wants it to sit down. Don't want that through the rings, and it looks like it will. Cheryl Bernard at one point considering coming down to sweep that, but almost anticipating that it would go through, and it does. So again, a rare mistake, that rock going through. They needed to put that in there just to have a second shot, because if that blue rock goes out, that yellow counter could be brought into play. But it's really well covered. I think we're going to see now another drawdown attempt. You always say don't leave a player the same shot twice, and that's what they've done. So expect Terry to make this shot. He's able to try and duplicate what he was doing last time, but just do it better. Cheryl sweeping hard on this one, trying to help it out. She's now trying to hold it up while she drags it down. Terry's moving up to help as well. He's trying to get in there. Cheryl's not letting him. There he goes. Both of them are bringing this around. They've got it around. They're now trying to lock this on. Oh, look at that shot by Terry Meek. Exactly what he wanted to do. As they say, don't leave a person the same shot twice. And that's what happened here to Scotland and Thomas. Well, let's see how they deal with this shot. Not sure if they'll try to blast it out or if they'll just draw down on top of it and duplicate what just happened. So here we go. We have Nadine settled. This is the last shot of the end for the team of Thomas and Scotland. Looks like they're going to play a drawdown on top of this one to try and negate that stone. Terry Meek just throwing an absolutely beauty to put that freeze on there. And here comes Nadine needing another great shot. She's had a number of them this game. Let's see if she can do it once again. Charlie's on it. He's trying to sweep it. That means it's probably a little bit light. He's off it again. That's good. It's a really good sign when you're on and you're off, you're on and you're off. There he goes again, trying to bring it over. He's trying to bring it over. He's trying to get it there too. He's got to bring that over. It's dying. And no. No. Well, I guess the good news on that and protecting that is that they can't come down and bump the yellow and score 3. So I think the plan B in this, if they could get down on the face, that's great. But you didn't want to error being heavy and leave a chance to get 3. So at least that's a perfect guard. They can't play on it. This means that Meek and Bernard are going to come down and try and draw it in here and put it, get their second shot and tie this game up heading into the 7th. Okay, better go back on / shot. All right, here we come. Last shot of the end. We've got Cheryl Bernard throwing it. Terry on the brush. Hasn't really laid a brush to it. Seems to like it. The way it's curling, I think it looks fine. And there we go, Cheryl Bernard. Not going to make the same mistake twice. Last end coming up short. This end putting it right in the forefoot. Taking her 2. And now the game is all tied. So we're heading into the 7th end as if nothing has happened. All tied at 6. Lots of great curling coming to you from these two teams. Lots of great curlers out there. Just want to bring you an update on sheet 4. The U.S. team of Roth and Nurberger have won that game against Crump and Wilson. They won it 9-2. Looking over at sheet 1, that final we already brought you was a final. It is 10-3 for Bertrand Schneider over Silcox and Kirak. And taking a peek now at sheet 2, that game's still going in the 7th end. We have Perot and Rios leading 5-3 with Hammer and 7 over Justin Wills. All right, looks like Thomas and Scotland are going to invoke the power play themselves in response. That'll force the play out to this left side here, and a chance for them to try and generate some points, much like we saw with Meek and Bernard. Looks like Bernard and Meek are playing the traditional way of coming on the outside to try and bump their rock towards the center, like we talked early, and roll their rock out of play. As we said, you can't remove a rock early, but you can let your shot stone roll out. Looks like that's not what they're doing. Instead, she's just cold drawing a centerline guard. As we know, you can't remove a rock until the 4 stones, so they're choosing to ignore that situation, the power play situation, instead putting up their own centerline guard, something they can use later in the end. So, There's 3 different ways we've seen to play the power play. The outside tap, just draw around and go with it, or create your own situation on the center line. So lots of things for viewers to see in terms of how you might play the different types of situations that you face here in mixed doubles. Looks like Charlie and Nadine are electing to draw around again. Draw around the corner guard, that is, again. This one does need to curl a lot, though. Looks like it might be a bit heavy. We'll see as it settles in. It's starting to come over now, though. Don't want to leave it double. Well, certainly wanted it over more. The good news is that until the 4 stone, you can't remove one. So even though it's still exposed and might be a good opportunity to get a double there, Terry can't take that on because it's not available to them until the 4th shot of the end. And of course, that 4th shot does belong to Thomas and Scotland. So we got Terry getting it clean, and you got Cheryl looking at the angles, trying to figure the best way to get on that. Looks like they decided to, like they did in their first shot, just ignore that situation and try and draw around the center and create their own situation that eventually Thomas and Scotland are going to have to deal with if they want to score with those outside rocks. Of course, the important thing is to make that shot. If Terry doesn't, it is going to start to leave a build-up situation for Thomas and Scotland. One thing we love about this game, there's lots of offense, lots of aggressive calling, and as shots are made and missed, it really does change the complex of this end. As we saw last end, thanks to Charlie throwing his rock through, it allowed Terry Meek to duplicate the shot he threw before, and that generated there too. So certainly the advantages change quite quickly in this based on the shots. Of course, you only have 1 sweeper, where in the traditional game you have 2. So the throw has to be a lot, just that much little more accurate than you would normally need when you've got 2 people pounding the brushes on it. So Terry's underway. They have decided to draw around this center guard and try and get one back on the button if they can, or at least a top 4. Seems like they like it, but I think it's a bit light. It's going to crash on that top rock, and it does. Good news for them is that those 2 rocks are a huge danger. They provide protection to that 4-foot, but they also are rocks that can be advanced back into the house under cover. So certainly not a dire situation here for Meek and Bernard. They have created that center line situation they wanted to. Ideally, they would have 1 on the button and 1 on the guard, but certainly those rocks are very usable. It looked like Charlie and Nadine were talking about drawing another one around to that situation of blue rocks on the left. Not sure if that's the final call, because again, there's nobody holding it in the house, but we will we'll see once Charlie lets it go. Well, as we watch Charlie release this rock, looks like a draw around, as we said, a draw around the outside guard. Want to give a shout out to Fatima Rodriguez. She just sent us through a comment, so thank you, Fatima. And to anybody out there listening, love to get your comments and thoughts or questions. Send them on through. We'll do our best to answer you or to acknowledge you. In the meantime, Charlie's thrown a great shot around here, just to tap his back, which he's done. Over curled a bit, so it is exposed, but they do have 3 rocks over there. I think now that they can take out, Bernard and Meek can certainly get at that top one and probably get 2 of these moving and even get a roll in behind. So not exactly what the end result was wanted, but again, with last rock and 3 rocks in the house, certainly there's opportunities there, but there's opportunity for Meek and Bernard to make a play on that top one, possibly remove 2 and get under cover. All right, Terry Meek is settling himself down here in the hack. I tell you, a lot of rocks in play, a lot of strategy, a lot of shot making. Game's been really exciting for our viewers. Hopefully you've enjoyed it as much as we have. We are actually live. We get to enjoy it right here in the house in beautiful Banff, Alberta. You saw earlier the overhead shot from the Banff gondola that showed how beautiful it is this morning, and it remains that way. Must be hard for the curlers to concentrate. Meanwhile, Terry trying to make this hopefully double, but more importantly, roll his shooter across. It looks like it's not quite curling enough. Will it get over enough? Oh, it jams on the back and rolls too far. Is Nadine going to be able to get it out? She's going hard on it. She won't, but gets it far enough that those two blue rocks are sitting shot. That one is buried still deep behind the yellow. The other one's quite exposed, but in the just behind the tee line. Looks like Charlie tapped over behind those yellow rocks. Probably wants to draw around the center now. Don't want to group those again. I think they saw that if they don't quite get it buried, it leaves a chance to not just maybe get a double, but to roll them behind cover. So escaping a bit of a fortunate situation with Terry unable to get the good roll, giving Charlie now a chance to take the advantage right back and sit three, counting three as we move later in the end. Looks like they're not quite set on it, but they're discussing the shot here. Charlie's quite confident of what he wants to do, and he's going to throw this draw. Nadine, as she's done all game, will provide some excellent sweeping. Rocks underway. Nadine sweeping. Looks like she is taking it pretty good. She's holding it there and also giving it weight. Again, 6 feet of curl. No worry about that outside yellow. This rock will swing over. Here it comes. She's got to hold it there and get it by. It looks like it's going to happen. I think she's done it. Nadine and her great sweeping, and yes, she has. Great throw by Charlie, and just wonderful sweep by Nadine to hold that. She was on it just across this hog line and never eased up until the very end. And that's not easy to do, to constantly sweep, especially this late in the end. We're in the 7th end, and you've only got one sweeper. So it's not like you can be the second sweeper and take a little bit of time off. You are it. And of course, the way this ice is swinging, if you give up or you stop for a little bit, you can really lose a stone. So wonderful sweep by Nadine. Great execution throw by Charlie. And now it's given them a great situation. They are behind cover. Even if this rock is run back into it, they won't be able to get shot rock, Meek, and Bernard. So leaving that a bit high was a great situation. That a run back stone won't be shot. It looks like, from what I can tell, that they are lining up a run-back double. And we'll see if that's the call. If they hit just a little bit off nose on the right on that exposed yellow guard out front, so that you can see from the angle at this end, not from the overhead, it could drive into that blue and possibly pick the other blue right off of the 4-foot. So let's see if we're right. Looks like they're taking a second look at it down here, trying to decide. So it looks like they decided to draw around the guards into the back. They're trying to go around the yellow, but also around the blue and get themselves in a shot position. Cheryl's been on this the whole way. It looks like a great throw. If the weight's right, they've got the line. They're by the top yellow. They're by the blue. Is it enough weight? Is it enough weight? Charlie's on it. Charlie's on it. And oh, what a great throw. You even could see there, if you looked at it from our end down here, how they had to be careful on outside yellow, but then they also had to be careful it didn't over curl on too much weight. So not easy when you've got this much curl. Excellent to get through that hole. However, it was a little bit heavy, and so now big advantage to Scotland and Thomas here. They are able to try and, I think, draw in again and duplicate what they were, what Meek and Bernard were doing. The big difference is they can leave this one high, which would not just give them a 4th stone in there, it would also block the path and make a takeout, not get them shot rock. But let's see what Charlie does here. I think he'll throw that exact same shot as Terry and either try and bury it behind, or if it's not quite heavy enough, leave it blocking that shot path. So. All right, here we go. Nadine has been on this rock the whole way down. She wants to carry it as far as she can, You want to get it in there for that extra shot. You want to try and get it in there if you can. And no, it's not. That yellow in the back right looks like it is out counting that. So obviously it does block the path. You saw how close that came to the outside yellow and how far it still went over. So I'm not sure if that hole's right there. It looks like they're going to have to play a soft hit off that blue and get the flop over. Going to have to be careful with it because you do not want to hit nose and stay, and you don't want to over-roll. But they do have about 4 feet that they can roll and still be behind cover and in that 4-foot area. So here's an out for Bernard and Meek. If they can make a great hit and roll under cover through this hole, they can certainly generate a steal in this situation where it was looking like a big end for Thomas and Scotland. Looks like Bernard and Meek now might have a chance to get out of it. And of course, none other than Cheryl Bernard will be throwing this shot. And you can imagine from the career she's had, this is a shot she must have thrown a number of times and thrown well. Of course, big difference in this mixed doubles game. You only have one sweeper to help you. You don't have two. So here we go. Cheryl setting the house. We are looking at a hit and roll off the blue on the left side. The shot's underway. Terry's just coasting it. Now he's onto it. He's trying to hold it. He's trying to hold it. Cheryl's giving instructions. Here it comes. Got to come just a little more for the roll. He's going to get the roll. Oh, so close. An outstanding shot, but just not quite getting the roll. Leaving the chance for Nadine to throw a very similar shot. She just has to hit. She can roll probably about 4 feet off of this hit as well and still keep third stone. So a great opportunity here in the 7th end to take a 3-point lead coming to 8. So certainly want to try and keep this shoot around. Of course, at least you want to get rid of that yellow rock to get your 2, but there's enough of it there that they should be able to stick around and score the 3. Nadine's been playing well all game, and we just expect that she'll keep it going here and make this shot. So Charlie's down here to sweep. We aren't going to have anybody holding the broom. We'll just sit back and watch this shot. All right, Nadine's back, and now she's let go. Basically duplicating the shot that Cheryl Bernard just threw. We haven't seen any sweeping. It's got to come a little bit to get by. It looks like it is by, but now it's got a curl to stay. Curl to stay. Is it going to stay? Is it going to stay? Oh, at the very end, that swung back. Oh, what looked like a rock sliding too far at the very end. It spun in, and that little extra inch, I think, is what did the job. So an absolutely great shot by Nadine there. Charlie did not lay a brush to it, all on its own, and probably just within an inch of the variance allowed. So big turn of events here. Cheryl was unable to get that hit underneath. A hard shot. She got some roll, but just not enough, and left enough that Nadine could come down and get rid of it and stay. So big 3-ender there for Thomas and for Nadine Scotland. So situation now, it is 9-6 for Nadine Scotland and Charlie Thomas over Bernard and Meek. Great comeback after that early disappointment in terms of for Scotland Thomas, but here we are. Still, we've seen threes quite frequently, so this game is by no means out of reach, and we'll expect Bernard and Meek to have a lot of rocks in play. And of course, we'll begin this end, as we do so many of them, with Nadine, the first rock thrower, trying to put one down on the top 4 or come around and tap that yellow into the back 8 and sit right there on top. All right, we want to say thank you as we get into our last end to the sponsors. Qualico, our major sponsor for the Qualico Mixed Doubles Classic. We've also got the Malcolm Hotel, Visions Electronics, and Bow Valley Credit Union, our silver sponsors, and many local sponsors who's helped us out in many ways. Great community support for this event. Great to see. We also want to give a shout out to the town of Banff and the town of Canmore. Certainly in Banff, we are in their facilities at the Fenland Recreation Center, a wonderful facility shared with hockey rinks and some outdoor activities, and the town's been very, very cooperative and worked wonderful with us throughout this event. And town of Canmore, nothing but great support for their community and their golf and curling club there, who is the host of the other part of this event at that venue, and we'll be heading there, as we said, quite shortly to bring you the next event, next draw. So back to our game, we saw Nadine throw a great stone right down in the top 8 on top of the yellow stone on the back, but top 8. Cheryl Bernard floating hers through as she tried to draw down on top of hers, a rare miss. We don't see that often out of Cheryl. So Charlie looks like he's going to throw another one down on top here and just bump their blue one back. Nope, he's coming around the other side, so he'll try and draw down on top of the yellow one and do what Cheryl just tried to do. By coming around this side, the advantage to doing that rather than tapping their own is that they will have control over both sides of the house coming in towards the button, which is certainly a great situation to have for the team. So there's Nadine, she's sweeping. Charlie's in behind watching, and this is a perfect shot right down on top. Perfectly frozen right there on top. So great throws here early on by Scotland and Thomas in this last end, an end in which they're up 3 and trying to make sure they don't give more than 2 to Bernard and Meek, who are going to be trying to generate some offense here. And here comes Terry's first throw of the end. All right, we got a really good throw by Terry. Both of them are on it. They like this a lot. It's coming right down, and Terry's been able to duplicate the shot that Charlie threw, and in fact jiggle that situation a little bit, which is really important because needed to get some separation between that blue, get it off the back yellow, and what he's been able to do here in doing that is that back yellow now does not have to be lost in removing that blue stone, which is something they'll have to do later in the end if they're going to try and generate their 3. So certainly lots of rocks getting into play here, something that's going to favor Meek and Bernard because they need to score 3, so they need 3 stones in play. Charlie Thomas now getting set to deliver, and he is going to run back his center guard, trying to remove those 2 yellows in the house. And we're on it. Not the result that he would have wanted. By clearing that top away, at least they'd be able to get at the stones, and probably a pretty easy double at some point to run them out of stones. But now what he's done is removed his top blue one and left a guard in place. So certainly something for Bernard and Meek to work with here. I think you'll see them draw another one around. They have to be careful because, of course, if they don't make it perfectly, you do leave Scotland and Thomas a chance to draw down on top. But certainly something building here for Meek and Bernard, which something they can use to hopefully generate the 3 points they need to tie this game, or maybe 4 for the win. For our viewers, if we do get a tie game, the way we handle it here, we play 1 extra end. If by some chance that extra end is blanked, then we go to a draw to the button. 1 player on each side will throw that draw, and that's how we'll decide the game. Obviously in the playoffs, we play it out, but here in round robin, we only give 1 extra end just from timing issues in order to give them a chance to settle it, or we go to a draw to the button. So Terry throwing an absolute great shot. He has come alive in this 8th end. He's curled well all game, but certainly in this 8th end when they need it most, he has just thrown 2 perfect shots right down on top. So creating a situation, they need 3, they have got 2 in position, and they've got a 3rd one very available potentially later on in the end. All right, well, obviously would love to have driven that blue one back into the yellow situation and remove a few. The good thing about having it open is those yellows are all bunched, so a little bit of up weight just has to get them moving, and if you can get a couple out of there, well then that will certainly solve the situation here. But as we see here, at some point, Meek and Bernard are going to have to make a play on this blue to to get it out of that 4 foot so they can try and get 3 or potentially 4. Of course, when you do that, you don't have any guards, you don't have any blockers, so it does allow Thomas and them to make a play. But those yellows being all crunched up may be able to keep it so you only lose 1, even with a heavyweight shot, even with the ability of Charlie Thomas. So let's just look overhead now and watch and see as they talk about this shot. See what they're doing. All right, looks like they come up with a decision. Cheryl's taking off the gripper, getting ready to sweep. Terry's taking one last peek down the ice, just visualizing up the spot he's going to have to aim at. A lot of times in mixed doubles curling, you as the thrower have to be able to visualize where you're aiming because you don't have a target in the house. Of course, in this game, a lot of times they're choosing to have the second person sweep. It's a big advantage, especially when you're throwing these precision shots. That, of course, leaves the thrower without a mark. They've got to be able to pick one, got to be able to look at that one and throw it. Something you have to get used to when you're playing this mixed doubles game. So Terry's in the house. He's thrown 2 amazing shots this end. Let's see if he can throw a third. He's obviously drawing down on top of that blue one. Wants to get a 4th one in play and wants to get on top of that blue one. If he can get it frozen, then that's going to be a good situation. The B plan, of course, would be to make sure, if nothing else, you get a guard on top of your yellows so that Charlie can't throw a shot down and remove them all. So looks like that's what we've got. We do have a great guard here, so that's going to work out perfectly for them. So nice plan B. It looks like now that Scotland and Thomas are going to change their strategy. It looks like now trying to get rid of the rocks, which hasn't worked so far. They might abandon that and start to draw in. If they can draw in and freeze on top, it's not a bad situation because hitting that won't make it hard to get rid of the one that's frozen on top. It'll take 2 throws. Charlie looking at maybe wanting to put their own guard down on top of this because a guard then means that they can't remove that blue one. It'll be hard for them to get in. That Meek and Bernard is to score their 3rd point. But, you know, you don't want it too far out because, as we've seen, 6 foot of curl, lots of ways to come in. If you put it too close, you might leave a double. So lots of things to think about as we look at the overhead camera. Looks like they settled on a top 8 rock. That will prove as a bit of a guard, but also leave them something that's usable to run into the Yellowstones based on how Cheryl Bernard and Terry Meek respond to the eventual situation. All right, so this is the last shot of the end for Thomas and Scotland. It'll be delivered by Nadine Scotland. They've elected to put a guard on top in the house, but on top of the blue rock that is their only rock in there. Of course, they can afford to give up 2. They can afford to give up 1. They could afford to give up 3, although they don't necessarily want to go to next end, but they can afford to give up 4. So they do have to make sure this rock gets over. So Charlie hasn't laid a stick to it. It's coming down. He's now trying to decide, do I sweep, do I not? He doesn't want it too deep. That's what he's concerned about. If he does sweep it too deep, it might leave an easy double. But they're letting it come in. And that's where it's going to sit. Actually, I think worked out quite well. Yeah, interesting. I think it's hard to get 4 out of that, but certainly they can come down off that blue and maybe rub it enough that they could get 3. A nose hit might do it, but of course it jams hard on that yellow, so ends up being a great throw. It's going to be very difficult. Looks like what they're peeking at is, can they hit it just thin enough, catch just like a 16th of that blue. It'll squirt over and just catch maybe a 16th of the back blue, and the 2 rocks will get moving out of the house, and those 3 yellows that you see there now would end up counting. Very difficult shot to throw and just skinny the one to catch any part of the other. But it may be the only shot they have, because anything that hits the outside of that back blue one is going to go into the yellow. And if you hit the outside of that top blue one, you are not going to roll in to outcount that blue. So that rock ending up in a great, great spot. The difficulty they have is their top yellow is not outcounting that back blue. So they have to move that back blue. I don't know if they could even hit that blue thin enough, come off their own yellow on the button and back into the blue one and still count their 3. So they're looking at it all, but I think inevitably what's going to happen is they've got to hit very, very thin piece of that top blue. And that thin piece has to be enough to move it and still move the other blue one out as well. I think there's a shot there. Very, very hard to throw. But as we've said so often in the draws that we've covered, you've got a great person at the helm to throw it and a good likelihood that she can make it. So let's watch Cheryl as she gets ready to throw it. Terry gets ready to sweep. This is a final rock potentially of this game, but it's the final rock of this end, needing 3 for yellow in order to force an extra. All right, Cheryl set. Here we go. Needs to skinny the top blue and catch a piece of the back one. The rock's away. Cheryl's calling line. Terry's on it. He's holding it. Let's see if he can hold it enough. It's such a thin piece they need. He's off. He's on. It's exactly what you want to see. It's coming across. Is it going to make it? Oh, what a great effort. She caught just under a quarter, and they weren't looking for much less than that. But unfortunately, they did their 2. Or their 1, I'm sorry. They get their 1, but not their 3. So this game will end. It will be final score, I believe, of 9-7. A tremendous effort by Meek and Bernard, putting the pressure all the way through on Nadine Scott and Charlie Thomas, the pool leaders. But in the end, Thomas and Scotland were able to come back and pull this one out. Thank you very much to all our viewers who were watching. We hope you enjoyed our presentation, our live stream. We are now packing up and heading over to Canada, where we will be bringing you Olympic bronze medalists against Walker and Walker. That's Scotland Nagraten against Walker as soon as we get set up there. So go grab yourself a coffee, and we'll be back with you in a little bit.